The promise shattered both their lives, but in completely different ways. Gabriel, 10 years old, pressed his face against the chain-link fence, tears streaming down his cheeks as he stared at the girl on the other side. She was 9, wearing a faded yellow dress 3 sizes too big, her dark hair pulled back with a rubber band. The Manhattan skyline loomed behind his family's estate, glass and steel towers reaching toward heaven, while behind her, the crumbling brick building of St. Catherine's Orphanage seemed to sink into the earth. He pulled the golden locket from around his neck, the one his mother had given him 3 months before she died, and with shaking hands, he twisted it until it broke in half. One half he pushed through the rusty diamond-shaped opening in the fence. The other half he clutched so tightly the clasp cut into his palm and drew blood. "I'll come back for you, Emma," he whispered, his voice breaking. "When I'm old enough, when I have my own money, I'll come back and we'll get married, I promise." Emma took the half-locket with trembling fingers, and even at 9 years old, she knew promises were just words that people said before they left forever. But she held on to it anyway, pressed it against her heart and watched Gabriel disappear into his mansion. She didn't know then that 25 years later, she'd be standing in his penthouse on the Upper East Side, wearing a maid's uniform, holding a feather duster, while a woman who wasn't her wore a diamond ring the size of a walnut and called herself Mrs. Gabriel Ashford. She didn't know that he'd walk into her tiny maid's quarters looking for something, anything to explain the strange familiarity he'd felt every time she served him coffee, and he'd find it. A faded Polaroid photograph tucked into a cheap drugstore frame on her nightstand, showing 2 children separated by a fence, one holding out half a golden locket. Before we continue with what happened when Gabriel found that photograph, if you're watching from the United States, the UK, Canada, or anywhere else in the world, drop a comment below and tell us where you're from. Hit that subscribe button if you believe some promises are worth keeping, even if they take 25 years. And stay until the end, because what Gabriel does when he realizes the truth will shock you. Gabriel Ashford woke up at 5:30 in the morning in a bed that cost more than most people earned in a year. The sheets were Egyptian cotton, 1,000 thread count, imported. The mattress was custom-made, designed by some Swedish company that claimed to align your spine with the Earth's magnetic field, or some bullshit like that. His wife Catherine lay beside him, her blonde hair fanned out on the pillow, her face smooth and expressionless even in sleep. She was beautiful in the way that money could make anyone beautiful. Personal trainer, dermatologist, cosmetic dentist, stylist, the works. They'd been married for 3 years, and Gabriel couldn't remember the last time he'd looked at her and felt anything beyond mild indifference. The penthouse was silent except for the hum of the climate control system, maintaining a perfect 68 degrees. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed Manhattan waking up below, tiny cars and tinier people beginning their commutes. From 45 floors up, everything looked insignificant. Gabriel got out of bed, careful not to wake Catherine, and walked to his home office. He unlocked the bottom drawer of his mahogany desk, the one drawer Catherine didn't have a key to, and pulled out a small wooden box. Inside, wrapped in tissue paper that had yellowed with age, half of a golden locket. He held it up to the light filtering through the windows. 25 years old. His mother had given him the complete locket when he was 7, told him it had belonged to her grandmother, told him to keep it safe, to give it to someone who mattered. 3 years later she was dead, breast cancer, and 6 months after that his father had already moved on, already had a new girlfriend, already acted like Gabriel's mother had never existed. That's when Gabriel had met Emma. Sweet, hopeful Emma, who lived on the other side of the fence separating his family's Manhattan estate from St. Catherine's Orphanage. For 6 months, every single day, Gabriel had gone to that fence. They'd talked for hours. She'd told him about life in the orphanage, about the nuns who were strict but kind, about the other kids who came and went as they got adopted, about how she'd been there since she was 3, and nobody wanted the older kids, everyone wanted babies. He'd told her about his mother, about the pain that felt like it would never end, about his father who worked 18-hour days and barely looked at him anymore, about feeling completely alone in a house with 12 bedrooms. Emma had understood. She'd seen him, really seen him, not as Gabriel Ashford, heir to Ashford Industries, but as a 10-year-old boy who missed his mum. And when his father announced they were moving to Chicago, that the New York office was being consolidated, that they were leaving in 2 weeks. Gabriel had felt like his world was ending again. On the last day, he'd given Emma half of the locket, made her promise to keep it, promised he'd come back when he was old enough, promised they'd be together. She'd smiled through tears and said she'd wait. Gabriel put the half locket back in its box, back in the drawer, locked it. He'd tried to find her. God knows he'd tried. When he turned 18, the first thing he did was hire a private investigator to track down Emma. But St. Catherine's had closed in 2005, the building sold to developers, the records scattered across a dozen different foster agencies and group homes. The investigator had found 3 Emma Johnsons who'd been in the New York foster system in the 90s, but none of them were her. He'd spent thousands of dollars, months of searching, and found nothing. Eventually he'd given up, told himself she'd probably been adopted, probably had a good life somewhere, probably didn't even remember him. He'd gone to Harvard, got his MBA, joined his father's company, worked his way up to CEO when the old man retired, and he'd married Catherine, because that's what you did in their world. You married someone from the right family, with the right connections, who understood that marriage was a partnership, not a romance. Catherine's father was a senator. Her mother chaired the board of half the charities in Manhattan. The wedding had been in the Times, 300 guests, $50,000 flower arrangements. And Gabriel had stood at the altar and thought about a 9-year-old girl with a yellow dress and a rubber band in her hair, and wondered where she was, if she was happy, if she'd kept her half of the locket. The bedroom door opened. Catherine walked in, already dressed in her workout clothes, checking her phone. "You're up early," she said without looking at him. "Couldn't sleep. I have Pilates at 6:30, lunch with the Vanderbilts at noon, then the gala committee meeting at 3. Don't forget we have the Whitney benefit tonight. Cocktails at 7, dinner at 8. I'll be there. Wear the Tom Ford tux, not the Armani. And Gabriel?" She finally looked up from her phone. "Try to look interested this time. Last week at the Morgan Library event you looked like you wanted to die." "I'll work on my enthusiasm." Catherine's expression didn't change. "I'm serious. These events matter. People notice." "I know. Do you? Because lately you've been distracted, distant. More than usual." Gabriel wanted to say that he'd been distracted and distant for 3 years, that their entire marriage was an arrangement that benefited both their families, but left them both empty, that he'd never loved her and she'd never loved him, and they both knew it, but nobody said it out loud because saying it would make it real. Instead, he said, "I'm fine, just stress from work. Handle it. I need you present tonight. Senator Harrison will be there, and his vote matters for Daddy's bill." "Of course it does." Catherine left without another word. Gabriel got dressed, went downstairs to the kitchen. The maid had already started breakfast. Toast, eggs, fresh squeezed orange juice. The maid. Gabriel paused. He'd been so lost in his own head that he'd barely registered when Catherine hired her 3 months ago. Their previous housekeeper had quit suddenly, something about her daughter being sick in Ohio, and Catherine had gone through an agency and found someone new. What was her name? Emma. The maid's name was Emma. Gabriel felt something cold slide down his spine. Coincidence. It had to be a coincidence. Emma was a common name. He'd probably met a dozen Emmas since he was 10 years old. The maid came around the corner carrying a pot of coffee. "Good morning, Mr. Ashford." He looked at her. Really looked. Mid-30s, brown hair pulled back in a neat bun, simple uniform, sensible shoes. She kept her eyes down, her movements efficient, her presence almost invisible. That was the thing about staff in houses like this. You trained them to be invisible. "Good morning," Gabriel said. She poured his coffee, set the pot down, started to leave. "Wait," Gabriel said. She turned back. "Yes, sir. What's your full name?" Something flickered across her face. "Surprise, fear?" "Emma Johnson, sir." Johnson. The investigator had found 3 Emma Johnsons. None of them were her. Except what if one of them was, and Gabriel had just given up too soon. "How long have you lived in New York?" Gabriel asked. "I grew up here, sir, left for a while, came back about 5 years ago." "Where did you grow up?" Now she definitely looked nervous. "Sir, I should get back to—" "Please. I'm just curious." "I grew up in foster care, sir, different places." Gabriel's heart stopped. "Foster care in Manhattan?" "Yes, sir." "Which facilities?" "I'd rather not discuss my personal history if that's all right, Mr. Ashford." Of course, I'm sorry. That was inappropriate. Emma nodded, hurried back to the kitchen. Gabriel sat frozen at the breakfast table. It couldn't be, could it? He'd been living with her in his house for 3 months. 3 months of her making his breakfast, cleaning his rooms, doing his laundry. If she was the Emma from the fence, she would have said something, right? Unless she didn't recognize him. He'd changed a lot in 25 years. Grew 7 inches, filled out, got contact lenses to replace his thick glasses, learned to style his hair instead of letting it flop in his eyes. And she'd changed too. The 9-year-old girl had become a woman. She'd lived an entire life he knew nothing about. But the name, Emma Johnson, foster care, Manhattan, it was too much coincidence. Gabriel needed to know. The rest of the day was a blur. Meetings he sat through without hearing a word. Conference calls he contributed to on autopilot. His assistant asked him 3 times if he was feeling all right. When he got home at 6, Catherine was already dressed for the gala. A floor-length Valentino gown that probably cost $20,000. "You need to get ready," she said. "We leave in 45 minutes. I need to check something first. One of the staff said there's a leak in the maid's quarters, so call maintenance. It'll take 2 minutes." Gabriel didn't wait for her response. He walked down the hall to the small bedroom off the kitchen where Emma stayed. Live-in staff were rare these days, but Catherine had insisted. She wanted someone available 24/7. Gabriel knocked. No answer. He tried the handle. Unlocked. He stepped inside. The room was tiny. A single bed, neatly made. A small closet. A wooden chair. A nightstand with a lamp. And on that nightstand, in a cheap plastic frame, a photograph. Gabriel picked it up with shaking hands. The photograph was old, faded, creased like it had been folded and unfolded 1,000 times. It showed 2 children, separated by a chain-link fence. The boy was holding something out through the fence. The girl was reaching for it, tears on her cheeks. Gabriel recognized that fence, recognized that boy, recognized that girl. It was them, him and Emma. 25 years ago, which meant the woman who'd been serving him coffee, making his bed, cleaning his bathroom for 3 months, was Emma. His Emma. The girl from the fence. The girl he'd promised to marry. The girl he'd searched for and never found. Except he had found her. She'd been here the whole time and she'd said nothing. Why would she say nothing? "Mr. Ashford." Gabriel spun around. Emma stood in the doorway, still in her uniform, holding a basket of clean towels. Her face went white when she saw what he was holding. "Give that back." Her voice was barely a whisper. "It's you." Gabriel's hands trembled. "It's really you. Emma, please give me the photograph. I looked for you. For years. I hired investigators. I tried everything." "Mr. Ashford, don't call me that. I'm Gabriel. You know I'm Gabriel." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "I know who you are. Then why didn't you say anything?" She laughed, but it was bitter. "Say what exactly?" "Hi, remember me? You promised to marry me when we were kids. That would have gone over really well with your wife. You've been here for 3 months. 3 months, Emma. I needed a job. I was desperate. When the agency sent me here and I saw it was you, I almost said no, but I needed the money. You needed—" Gabriel couldn't breathe. "What happened to you? After I left? Were you adopted?" "No." "Why not?" "I aged out. Nobody adopts teenagers. I left the system at 18 with nothing. Worked minimum wage jobs. Tried to save money, go to school, but life kept happening. Medical bills, rent, just surviving." Gabriel felt like someone had punched him in the chest. "I had no idea." "Of course you didn't. You moved to Chicago, went to fancy schools, became a billionaire, and I cleaned hotel rooms. That's how life works." "Emma, if I'd known—" "What? You would have saved me? Come riding in like a knight?" She shook her head. "I'm not a charity case, Gabriel. I don't need saving." "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean?" Emma's voice rose. "That you're sorry? That you feel guilty? Great. Wonderful. That changes everything. I tried to find you. Not hard enough." The words hit like a slap. Gabriel opened his mouth, closed it. Because she was right. He'd tried, sure. Spent some money. Hired one investigator who'd worked for a few months, then said it was impossible. And Gabriel had accepted it. Moved on. Built his life. "You're right," he said quietly. "Not hard enough. Emma wiped her eyes. Why does it even matter now? You're married. You have a whole life. I'm just the maid. Let's keep it that way. I can't. Why not? Because I spent 25 years wondering where you were, if you were okay, if you remembered me, and now you're here and I can't just pretend you're not. Well, you're going to have to, because I'm not wrecking your marriage. I'm not becoming the scandal that destroys the Ashford family reputation. Emma, no, listen to me. She stepped into the room, took the photograph from his hands. I kept this picture. I kept the locket you gave me. I held on to them through homeless shelters, through sleeping in my car, through some of the worst years of my life. You know why? Gabriel shook his head. Because they reminded me that once, for 6 months, someone gave a shit about me. Someone saw me as more than just another foster kid nobody wanted. That mattered. It still matters. But it was 25 years ago, Gabriel. We were children. You made a promise you couldn't keep. I don't blame you for that. I wanted to keep it. But you didn't. And that's okay. You built your life, I built mine. Well, I tried to build one anyway, and now I work for you, which is humiliating enough without us pretending there's something still there. There is something still there. Gabriel moved closer. Emma, the second I saw that photograph, everything came back. Every conversation we had. Every time you made me laugh when all I wanted to do was cry. You saved me that year. You were the only good thing in my life. I was a kid being nice to another kid, that's all. No, it was more than that. You saw me. Not my father's money or my family's name. Just me. And I saw you. Really saw you. Past tense, Gabriel. You saw me. 25 years ago. We're different people now. Are we? Yes. You're a billionaire married to a senator's daughter. I'm a 34-year-old maid who barely finished high school. We're from different worlds. We were always from different worlds. That didn't matter then. It didn't matter because we were kids. We didn't understand how the world works. Emma's voice cracked. But I understand now. I understand that people like you don't end up with people like me. That's not how this works. Catherine! The shout came from the front of the penthouse, Catherine's voice sharp with impatience. We're going to be late. Gabriel didn't move. I have to go. I know. This conversation isn't over. Yes, it is. Emma tucked the photograph into her uniform pocket. Tomorrow morning I'll be gone. I'll leave a resignation letter. You'll hire a new maid. We'll both move on like we should have 25 years ago. Emma, please, go to your gala, Gabriel. Kiss your wife. Smile for the cameras. Live your life. She pushed past him, walked down the hall, disappeared into the kitchen. Gabriel stood in the tiny maid's room, his mind spinning. He'd found her. After 25 years, he'd found her. And he was about to lose her again. Gabriel, Catherine appeared in the doorway. What are you doing? We needed to leave 5 minutes ago. I need to tell you something. Not now. We're already late. Catherine, it's important. She checked her watch, sighed dramatically. Fine, what? I can't go to the gala tonight. Excuse me? I need to stay here. There's something I need to handle. Handle? What could possibly be more important than the Whitney benefit? Do you know how much I paid for our table? I don't care about the table. Catherine's eyes narrowed. What is going on with you? I found someone. Someone from my past. Someone who matters. Who? The maid. Emma. Catherine laughed. Actually laughed. The maid. Gabriel, have you lost your mind? Her name is Emma Johnson. I knew her when I was 10 years old. We were friends before my family moved to Chicago. So what? You want to catch up with childhood memories? Do it tomorrow. It's more than that. How much more? Gabriel looked at his wife. Beautiful, cold Catherine, who'd married him for his money and connections, who'd never once asked him about his mother, his childhood, his pain, who looked at him the way you'd look at a stock portfolio, useful, profitable, but ultimately replaceable. I made her a promise when I was 10 years old, Gabriel said quietly. I promised I'd come back for her, that I'd marry her. Catherine's face went completely still. What did you just say? I know it sounds crazy. You promised to marry the maid when you were 10 years old, and you think this is relevant to our lives now. Why exactly? Because I never stopped thinking about her. Because I looked for her for years. Because finding her changes everything. Changes what, Gabriel? You're married to me. Or did you forget that? Our marriage is a business arrangement. We both know that. So what? You want a divorce so you can play out some childhood fantasy with the help. Don't talk about her like that. I'll talk about her however I want. She's a maid, a nobody. You are Gabriel Ashford. You don't throw away everything for someone like her. Someone like her is worth more than everything I have. Catherine slapped him. The sound echoed in the small room. Gabriel touched his cheek, more surprised than hurt. Don't you dare embarrass me like this, Catherine hissed. Do you know what people will say? That Gabriel Ashford left his wife for the help. The scandal will destroy both our families. I don't care. You should care. My father will make sure you regret this. He'll destroy you. Let him try. Catherine stared at him like she'd never seen him before. You're serious. You're actually serious. Yes. Then you're a fool. She grabbed her clutch, turned to leave, paused in the doorway. I'll file for divorce first thing Monday morning. And Gabriel, my lawyers will take everything. The prenup has clauses, infidelity, abandonment. You'll lose half of everything you have. I don't care about the money. Of course you don't. You've never had to worry about money, but she has. Catherine's smile was cruel. Ask yourself, does she want you or does she want what you can give her? Because I promise you, people like her always want something. She left. Gabriel heard the front door slam, heard the elevator ding, heard the sound of his marriage ending, and he didn't feel sad. He felt relieved. He walked to the kitchen. Emma was scrubbing the counters, her movements sharp and angry. She's gone, Gabriel said. I heard. She's filing for divorce. Emma stopped scrubbing. What? Monday morning. Her lawyers will make sure I lose everything. Half my money, my reputation, probably my position at the company. My father will disown me. Her father will destroy me politically and professionally. Gabriel, no, you can't. I don't care. Yes, you do. You've worked your whole life to build what you have. I built what I thought I was supposed to build. A company, a reputation, a life that looks perfect from the outside and feels empty on the inside. Gabriel walked toward her. But with you, for 6 months when I was 10 years old, I felt real. I felt seen. I felt like myself. We were children. So what? Children know the truth better than adults do. We haven't learned to lie to ourselves yet. Emma's hands shook. This is insane. Probably. You're throwing your life away for someone you haven't seen in 25 years. No. I'm finally building the life I actually want. What if I'm not who you remember? What if we don't even like each other anymore? Gabriel reached out, took her hand. She didn't pull away. Then we'll find out. But Emma, I've spent 25 years looking for you. I can't let you disappear again. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I'm nobody, Gabriel. I have nothing to offer you. You're not nobody. You're the person who made me feel less alone when I was drowning in grief. You're the person who listened when nobody else cared. You're the person I broke my mother's locket for, because even at 10 years old, I knew you mattered. Gabriel, I know it's fast. I know it's crazy. But I need to know. Do you feel anything for me? Anything at all? Emma looked at him, and Gabriel saw it all in her eyes. The pain of 25 years, the exhaustion of surviving, the fear of hoping. I never stopped loving you, she whispered. I tried. God, I tried. I told myself you were just a rich kid who made a promise he couldn't keep, that I was stupid for believing you. But I kept the locket, kept the picture, kept hoping that maybe, somehow, I'm here now. For how long? Until reality sets in? Until you realize what you've given up? Forever, if you'll let me. Emma pulled her hand away. I need time. To think. To process. You need time, too, to make sure you really want this. I'm sure. You're not. You're caught up in nostalgia and guilt. Give it a week. Handle your divorce. Handle your family. Then if you still feel the same way, we'll talk. Emma, please. 1 week. That's all I'm asking. Gabriel wanted to argue. Wanted to tell her that he'd already waited 25 years, and he wasn't waiting another second. But he could see she needed space. Needed to believe this was real. 1 week, he agreed. But you're not leaving. Stay here. This is your home now. I can't stay here. Not after, then I'll get you your own apartment, somewhere safe. Let me do that much. Emma hesitated, then nodded. Okay. Gabriel called his assistant right then, 11 p.m. on a Saturday, told him to book a hotel suite for Emma immediately, Expense not an issue. Within an hour, Emma was packed. One suitcase. That was everything she owned. Gabriel wanted to weep. He drove her to the Four Seasons himself, walked her to the suite, a beautiful room overlooking Central Park. "This must cost a fortune," Emma said. "I don't care. Gabriel, 1 week, stay here, room service and spa, whatever you need. Just don't disappear." Emma set her suitcase down, turned to face him. "Why are you doing this?" "Because 25 years ago you gave me half your sandwich even though you were hungry too. Because you shared your books even though you had so few. Because you saw a rich kid crying at a fence, and instead of assuming he had everything, you realized he had nothing that mattered." Gabriel's voice broke. "You were 9 years old, and you taught me what kindness looks like. I'm just trying to pay you back." "You don't owe me anything." "Yes, I do. I owe you everything." He left before she could argue, drove back to his penthouse. The place felt emptier than ever. Catherine had already had her things packed by staff. She'd moved fast. By Monday morning, the divorce papers were filed. By Tuesday, Gabriel's father called. "You're an embarrassment to this family." "Good to hear from you too, Dad." "Don't be flip with me. Do you know what you've done?" "Catherine's father is calling in favors. 3 of our biggest investors just pulled out. The board is meeting tomorrow to discuss removing you as CEO. Let them. Let them. Gabriel, this is the company I built, the company you're supposed to inherit." "I never wanted the company, Dad. I wanted a father, but you were too busy building an empire to notice. Your mother's death was 12 years ago. You remarried 6 months later. You erased every trace of her from our house. You sent me to boarding school so you wouldn't have to look at me and be reminded. You chose the company over me every single time. So excuse me if I don't really care about disappointing you now." His father was silent for a long moment. "If you don't resign, they'll force you out. Then I'll resign. And throw away everything I built? You built it, Dad, not me. I was just playing the role you assigned me. I'm done acting." Gabriel hung up. On Wednesday, he resigned as CEO. The board accepted immediately. The press had a field day. Billionaire CEO abandons empire for chambermaid. Gabriel Ashford's fall from grace. When childhood promises destroy adult lives. Gabriel didn't read any of it. On Thursday, his lawyers informed him that the divorce would cost him approximately $200 million, half his liquid assets. "Mrs. Ashford's lawyers are being very aggressive," his attorney said. "We can fight this, drag it out." "No. Give her what she wants. I want this done quickly." "Mr. Ashford, that's a substantial amount of money." "I'll survive." On Friday, Gabriel waited outside the Four Seasons at 7 a.m. When Emma emerged, dressed in jeans and a simple sweater, she looked shocked to see him. "It's been 5 days, not 7, she said. "I couldn't wait." "Gabriel, I resigned from my company, filed for divorce. My father disowned me. I've lost half my money and most of my reputation, and I don't care about any of it. All I care about is you." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "Why would you do that?" "Because you're worth more than all of it. You barely know me, the adult me. We had 6 months together when we were kids. That's not enough to base a life on. Then let's get to know each other now, right now. Today." Gabriel held out his hand. "Come with me." "Where? Does it matter?" Emma looked at his hand for a long moment. Then she took it. They spent the day together, walking through Central Park, getting coffee at a diner in Queens. Not some fancy cafe, but a real diner with torn vinyl seats and coffee that tasted like it had been sitting for hours. Eating pizza from a dollar slice place. Talking. About everything. Emma told him about her life, the years in foster care, bouncing between homes, never feeling wanted. Aging out at 18 with $300 and a garbage bag full of clothes. Working at McDonald's, at hotels as a house cleaner. Living in her car for 6 months when she couldn't make rent. Getting robbed twice. Getting sick and not being able to afford a doctor. The grinding, exhausting reality of poverty. "I tried to go to community college," she said. "Enrolled twice, had to drop out both times because I couldn't work enough hours to pay rent and take classes. It's like the system is designed to keep you trapped." Gabriel listened, and with every story, his heart broke a little more. She told him about relationships. Men who seemed nice at first, then turned mean when they realized she had nothing to offer. One who stole the little money she'd saved. One who hit her. One who just disappeared one day without a word. I learned not to trust people, Emma said. Learned that most of the time people want something from you, and when you have nothing to give, they leave. I won't leave. You say that now. I mean it. Emma looked at him. Why? Why do you care so much? Gabriel thought about how to answer. When my mom died, I felt invisible. My dad stopped seeing me. I was just this inconvenient reminder of what he'd lost. And then I met you and you saw me, really saw me. Made me feel like I mattered. He squeezed her hand. You gave me that. I want to give it back to you. They walked in silence for a while. Finally, Emma spoke. I kept the locket through everything. Even when I was so broke I couldn't eat. I could have sold it. The gold alone would have fed me for a month. But I couldn't. It was the only proof I had that someone had cared about me once. I never stopped caring. I know that now. They ended up at the fence. Gabriel hadn't been there in 25 years, but he still knew exactly where it was. The estate had been sold years ago, turned into luxury condos, but the fence remained, separating the property from what used to be St. Catherine's Orphanage. That building was condos now too. Everything had changed, but the fence was still there. They stood on opposite sides like they had as children. I promised I'd marry you, Gabriel said. We were 10. I still mean it. Emma laughed through tears. Gabriel, we've been back in each other's lives for 5 days. I've loved you for 25 years. The 5 days just made it real again. You can't possibly know that you want to marry me. Why not? I know you're kind. I know you're strong. I know you survived things that would have broken most people. I know you kept a promise from a 10-year-old boy for 25 years. That's enough. That's not enough for marriage. Then what is? Emma looked at the fence between them. Time, real time, getting to know each other without the drama, without the guilt. Just seeing if we actually work. Okay. We'll take time, however much you need. But Emma, I'm not going anywhere. I'll wait. What if we don't work out? Then at least we tried. But I think we will. Emma reached through the fence like she had 25 years ago. Gabriel took her hand. One condition, Emma said. What? No more living in penthouses, no more galas, no more pretending to be someone you're not. Deal. And I'm not letting you support me. I need to work, need to build something for myself. Okay? Just like that? Just like that. Emma, I don't care if you're a maid or a CEO or anything else. I just want you in my life. They stood at the fence holding hands as the sun set over Manhattan. Two people who'd been separated by wealth, by class, by 25 years, but connected by something stronger, a promise. They dated for a year, a real year of getting to know each other. Gabriel rented a small apartment in Brooklyn, nothing fancy. Emma got a job at a non-profit helping foster kids transition to adulthood. They had dinner together 3 nights a week, went to museums, watched movies, had arguments about stupid things like whether pineapple belongs on pizza. They went to therapy, both individual and couples, to work through their trauma. Gabriel dealt with his grief over his mother, his complicated relationship with his father. Emma dealt with her abandonment issues, her fear of trusting people. It was hard. There were moments when Emma pulled away, convinced Gabriel would eventually realize she wasn't worth it. Moments when Gabriel's old life tried to pull him back, board members offering him positions, Catherine's lawyers creating problems. But they pushed through. On the anniversary of the day Gabriel found the photograph, he took Emma back to the fence. I have something for you, he said. He pulled out a small box. Inside, both halves of the locket, professionally repaired, joined back together. I had it fixed, Gabriel said. Thought it was time to make it whole again. Emma's tears fell on the golden surface. Gabriel, there's something else. He opened the locket. Inside, a new photograph. Taken a week earlier, the two of them laughing in Central Park. New memories, Gabriel said, to go with the old ones. Emma threw her arms around him. I love you. I love you too. Emma Johnson, will you marry me? She pulled back, looked at him. Are you serious? I've never been more serious about anything in my life. We're broke. You gave away your fortune in the divorce. I have enough. We have enough. Your family won't come. My family is you. Emma smiled through tears. Then yes, Yes, I'll marry you. They got married 3 months later. Small ceremony, just a few friends, at a community center in the Bronx. Emma wore a simple white dress from Macy's. Gabriel wore a suit off the rack. No senator's daughter. No social pages coverage, no 5-tier cake or ice sculptures. Just two people who'd kept a promise for 25 years. After the ceremony, they drove to St. Catherine's, or what used to be St. Catherine's. Stood at the fence. "We did it," Emma said. "We kept the promise." "Damn right we did." Emma pulled out the locket now hanging around her neck. "You know what I realized?" "What?" "This locket was broken for 25 years, but it was still beautiful, still valuable. The break didn't destroy it." "Is there a metaphor in there?" "Yeah. We were both broken. By loss, by poverty, by life. But we were still valuable. Still worth putting back together." Gabriel kissed her. "Best metaphor I've ever heard." They started a non-profit together. Using what was left of Gabriel's money, they opened a home for teenagers aging out of foster care, a place where kids could live while they transitioned to adulthood, learned job skills, got therapy, felt supported. They called it Locket House. In the first year, they helped 32 kids. By year 3, they'd expanded to 4 locations. By year 5, they'd helped over 200 teenagers find stable housing, finish school, start careers. Emma ran the day-to-day operations. Gabriel handled fundraising and administration. They worked 16-hour days, made almost no money, lived in a small 2-bedroom apartment, and they were happier than they'd ever been. One evening, Gabriel came home to find Emma crying over a photo album. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. Look." She showed him a photo. One of their kids, Marcus, who'd aged out of foster care at 18 with nothing, now stood in a cap and gown. College graduation. "He did it," Emma said. "He graduated." "That's amazing. He wrote me a letter, said Locket House saved his life, said if he'd been on the streets, he wouldn't have made it." Gabriel put his arm around her. "You saved his life, just like you saved mine." 5 years after they got married, Emma got pregnant. They'd tried for years, been told it might not happen due to health issues from Emma's years of malnutrition, but it did. A girl. They named her Catherine after Gabriel's mother, not his ex-wife. Baby Catherine had Emma's dark hair and Gabriel's eyes. When Gabriel held her for the first time, he cried. "What's wrong?" Emma asked from the hospital bed. "Nothing. Everything's right. For the first time in my life, everything's right." They brought Catherine home to their small apartment. No nanny, no night nurse, just them, learning how to be parents. It was exhausting and beautiful. On Catherine's first birthday, Gabriel's father showed up unannounced. They hadn't spoken in 6 years. The old man stood in the doorway of their apartment, looking uncomfortable. "Can I come in?" he asked. Gabriel looked at Emma. She nodded. They let him in. Henry Ashford looked around the modest apartment. "This is where you live?" "Yeah. It's small. It's enough." Henry sat down heavily. "I was wrong." "About what?" "Everything. Pushing you toward a life you didn't want. Ignoring your grief. Erasing your mother. Caring more about the company than you." He looked at Gabriel. "I'm sorry." Gabriel didn't know what to say. Emma put her hand on his. "Why now?" Emma asked. "Why after 6 years?" "I had a heart attack," Henry said. 3 months ago, mild, but it made me think about my life, about what matters. I built an empire, but I lost my son. That's not a good trade." He looked at baby Catherine. "And I realized I have a granddaughter I've never met." Gabriel felt his throat tighten. "You really hurt me, Dad?" "I know. For years I just wanted you to see me, to care about me as much as you cared about the company. But you never did. You're right, and I can't change that. But I'd like to try to do better now, if you'll let me." Gabriel looked at Emma. She squeezed his hand, left the decision to him. "You can meet your granddaughter," Gabriel finally said. "But Dad, if you're going to be in our lives, you have to accept who we are. We're not moving back to Manhattan. We're not rejoining high society. This is our life, helping kids who have nothing, living simply, being happy. I can accept that. Can you? Can you accept that I make $40,000 a year running a non-profit? That Emma was a foster kid? That we're happy without the things you value?" Henry looked at his son. Really looked. "You know what I see when I look at you." "What?" Someone who figured out what I never did. That money doesn't mean shit if you're alone. He stood up. I'd like to be part of your life. On your terms. If you'll have me. It took time. Years, actually. But slowly Gabriel and his father rebuilt their relationship. Henry started volunteering at Locket House, mentoring kids, using his business skills to help them understand finance, entrepreneurship. He was good at it, and for the first time, Gabriel saw his father happy, really happy. Not the fake happiness of closing deals and making money, but the real happiness of making a difference. 10 years after Gabriel found the photograph, Locket House had grown to 15 locations across 3 states. Over 1,000 kids had been through their programs. Marcus, their first success story, now worked for them as a counselor. Gabriel and Emma had 3 children. Catherine, now 9. Michael, 7. And Sarah, 5. They'd bought a house. Not a mansion, just a regular 4-bedroom in Queens. But it was theirs. Emma had finished her degree, then her master's. She was Dr. Emma Ashford now. Gabriel couldn't have been prouder. One Saturday morning, Gabriel woke up early. Emma was still asleep beside him, her hair spread across the pillow. He could hear the kids downstairs, probably making a mess in the kitchen trying to cook breakfast. He looked at his wife, still beautiful, still strong, still the person who saw him. He thought about his old life, the penthouse, the company, the empty marriage. He didn't miss any of it. This was real. This mattered. Emma opened her eyes, smiled sleepily. What are you thinking about? How lucky I am. You gave up a fortune for me. Best investment I ever made. She laughed, pulled him close. I love you, Gabriel Ashford. I love you too, Emma Ashford. Downstairs, something crashed. The kids shouted. Daddy, we made pancakes. They're mostly not burned. Gabriel and Emma looked at each other and laughed. Think we should go save the kitchen? Emma asked. Probably. But they stayed in bed a moment longer, holding each other, grateful for the life they'd built from a promise made by 2 lonely children at a fence 25 years ago. Because some promises are worth keeping, even if they take decades, even if they cost everything, even if the world says it's impossible. Those are the promises that matter most. If you believe in keeping promises, share this story. Subscribe if you think real love is worth fighting for. And comment below, what promise have you kept, or what promise do you wish someone had kept for you? Because every promise matters, every person matters. Gabriel and Emma proved that. Maybe it's time you proved it too.